Hey everybody, this is Dan Hornacek with Leading on the Frontlines. Hope everyone is having a good week so far. Um, I know I was really digging on last week's podcast with the power of positivity. I'm trying to move that into my everyday life. I hope you guys have been able to do that as well. I hope it was able to kind of change some mindsets and things throughout this past week. Maybe help give you some just kind of different ideas and just kind of a mental check of kind of keeping in the foreground. Kind of that positive mentality. This week it's kind of a not a reverse or a flip or opposite or anything like that, but um, I think it's important to think about what happens when we leave. Like when I say that, there's actually a poem by David Romano. It's called "When Tomorrow Starts Without Me," and I just read this poem a few days ago actually, and it really had a big impact on me. The poem, again, it's "When Tomorrow Starts Without Me" by David Romano. I'm going to put the author in the title in the info for the podcast, so check it out. It's a really good poem, but it's a neat perspective because it's addressed to all of those left behind when someone dies, and the poem comes from a perspective of a speaker who's considering his own death, and it's kind of neat because it's written not in fear of that death, but kind of in order to soothe the others that might cry. And I thought it was that concept was pretty cool to me. Um, I know it's kind of heavy, right, talking about death, but kind of putting it in the perspective of like leadership or just work, things like that. Um, I kind of had two takeaways with it. One being that, how are you leaving people? This could be just a simple conversation, or this could be, um, when you leave for the day. Like, for example, when I was managing my team at FedEx, if I left early, it was up to them to finish, running the sort and things like that. What tone did you leave them with, and what did they think of you after you walked away? And if you ever left a position, either even just being in just a standard position, or if it was in a management or leadership style position too, when you walked away, what did um, what do you feel that people took away from you? Was it a positive impact on their life? Was it a negative impact on their life? Was it inspirational? Was it um, creating ambition? Was it things like that? And I think, thinking about, that kind of perspective of how we leave people is how we're remembered by. There's another quote, I can't quite remember it, but that states that, people, it's not what you do, it's how you make people feel is how you're remembered. I think that's very important, and I think that, we all have impacts on each other's lives. There's a lot of stuff on social media right now that like a job will replace you in 48 hours, and that's true. I mean, let's be real, but it doesn't mean the employees that are still there won't remember you, and what kind of impact do you want to leave on them. And this goes far beyond just you know um, work. I mean, this goes on into your personal relationships too. And it's easy, I think, to forget the impact that we truly have on others. And I think a lot of it is neutral, but like people remember the good and the bad. Neutral, it is what it is. You just move on. But if you're having a positive impact on somebody, I think that you're going to be remembered for that, and that's a pretty cool thing. Versus being someone who is inherently negative or cynical or whatever, that's going to leave an impression too. And is it the impression that you want left on others when you're gone? Again, not to get too heavy with like the death stuff, but just from like an interpersonal relationship perspective, or even from work. So it's I really think that that perspective, really, if you're thinking about your everyday actions, and if you're thinking about how you're entering into situations, mentality, mindset, all these things kind of start to come into play and work with one another or against one another, depending on which way you're going. Um, you know, I'm not inherently an optimist. That's not really me. I would consider myself more of a realist. I'm a planner. I like to, think things through, take my time, weigh the pros and cons, make small decisions. That's really who I am. And the reason I do the things the way I do them is because when I approach a situation or a challenge, it allows me to approach it with a mindset that I can, overcome it, or I'm going to do well, or what have you. I can feel good about the work that I put in with the result that I anticipate getting. And it's kind of, and some people, they're really good at, they don't even study for a test and they pass it. I am not one of those people. I need to really understand the um, whatever it is I'm learning, or if it's like making changes amongst a sort or within an office, I need to understand the implications of that change and how it's going to cross functionally impact other areas. I think these are important things, and by doing so and walking into these challenges with a positive mindset, I'm confident, right? I have a plan. I'm walking in with my team as a confident leader in these perspectives. And then if we do fail, or even if we do, just knock it out of the park, when you walk away from there, that's the impact that you're going to have on your team. It's going to be, people are going to think of you like, wow, we failed hard, but, my boss, just as the example, didn't just harp down on us and call us failures and whatnot. He, that's, again, we talked about opportunity a lot with your employees to kind of be the person they need you to be. And I think it all starts with that mindset. And that's why I think thinking about, down the road of what type of imprint do you want to leave on your people is going to change your actions today. That's the second part is, if you kind of keep that was one of the most impactful things of this poem for me was, what I do today is ultimately going to impact these people for, months, years, whatever. And when I finally leave, or they finally leave and find another job or something like that, what are they going to say about me? And I don't want it to be misconstrued. It's not about, the focus of like, well, I don't care what people think of me. For one, you should. But secondly, it's more so like, what kind of impact do you want to have? It's more of an individual thing for yourself. Like, what do you want to be remembered as? Do you want to be remembered as an asshole manager, or do you want to be remembered as an empathetic manager who really cared about his or her employees? I think that's very important. And you have to by keeping this in the forefront of your mind, you are ultimately setting yourself up to get to that point during the duration of either where you being at the job or your employees. So that's really what I had. Again, I think everybody should read this this poem. I've read it actually a few different times since originally earlier this week. And again, When Tomorrow Starts Without Me by David Romano. And I just really think it's an impactful thing, and it really gets your gears in your brain turning of, who am I right now? Who do I want to be, and how do I get there? And I think a good step is to think of, if I were gone tomorrow, what would people say about me? And then it gets a little heavy. I think, I kind of went down that rabbit hole of like, who'd attend my funeral and things like that. What would people say about me? I would hope that people would say Dan is a funny guy who was very direct when needed, and compassionate when needed. And that's my goal. That's what I want to be. Not to say that I've achieved it. It's something that I continually work on every single day. So that's kind of my food for thought this week. Again, I'm just going to say it one more time. When Tomorrow Starts Without Me, David Romano. Check out that poem. Read it all the way through. Read it again. Think about it for a day and read it again. So again, that's all I got for this week on Leading on the Front Lines. Got an interview coming up. I'm pretty excited about it. Finally got that in the works. I'm not going to announce who, just in case things fall through the cracks, but really excited to get that on the schedule. And again, please rate, subscribe, review, follow me on Instagram and YouTube and X. And let me know what you guys think of the different episodes. If you guys disagree with something I'm saying, I would love to hear your opinions, or just different tactics in which you guys lead your teams. So really excited to still be doing this. It's been a good new year, even though it's been freezing cold in my part of the country, but it looks like it's been freezing cold in the majority of the country. So I hope everyone has a good week, and we'll talk to you next time.